Hello everyone and Happy New Year. We hope you have a blissful, awesome, magnificent, colourful and cheerful year ahead. 2021 has not started well with another lockdown for us, but by the spring it should get an awful lot better. So Happy New Year to you. This is the third video about Christmas that I promised, even though Christmas has come and gone. I wonder, did you perhaps sing this song?
Kings of Orient are bearing gifts, we traverse afar, fields and fountains, moor and mountains, following yonder star. Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again. King
We Three Kings of Orient are is sung in most churches after Christmas. It's usually sung after the New Year because we say goodbye to Christmas and we say hello to another festival. But to help you understand about that festival, I need you to understand that Christmas is just the start of the Christmas celebrations. You may have sung this song over Christmas or heard it at least on the radio, the 12 Days of Christmas. In churches, the Christmas celebrations aren't just linked to Advent and 25th of December that we call Christmas Day, but for 12 days of Christmas is called Christmastide. And Christmastide finished yesterday, the 6th of January. And during this time, we call that special day, the end of Christmastide, Epiphany. January the 6th is known in this country and around the world as Epiphany. Now, during Christmas, you may remember I talked about my Playmobil nativity scene and how we get it out on Christmas Eve. Now, what you may not know is the Playmobil Christmas scene doesn't come with all the usual characters because not all the characters from the traditional nativity scene appear at Jesus' birth. Only Mary, Joseph and the shepherds. If you want the Magi, the wise men, the three kings, you have to buy them separately because they came later. And in Europe, there is tradition on Christmas Day of getting the kings out and having them journey around the house until they reach the nativity scene on Epiphany. Epiphany is when Christians remember the arrival of the three kings. And I have a brief illustration, a brief video of a Bible reading to explain who they were.
A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertain from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way.
Goodbye Christmastide, hello Epiphany, hello the celebration of the arrival of the three kings. Some people call it 12th night. Certainly is an idea that I heard when I was growing up, because it's 12 days after Christmas Day. Some people call it Three Kings Day, because it's straight to the point. If you're a Catholic person from a Spanish-speaking world, you might call it Dia de los Reyes. I hope I pronounced that correctly. My Spanish isn't very good. And if you're from the Greek or Orthodox world, you might call it Theophany. These are all the same names to explain the same event, the same celebration. No matter what we call our event, we all remember the same thing. People following a star, arriving to speak to King Herod, bringing gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. During our Epiphany celebrations, our Epiphany services, our times of prayer, Bible reading, reflection, we focus on these three kings, upon their gifts and upon their mission from the outside of Jerusalem to come and celebrate the birth of Jesus. Now, whether you call them three kings, three wise men, or the Magi, which is the term I like to use, we are all celebrating the same thing, but we do it in very different ways. I have some videos I want to show you. One is the start of a very brief documentary, and the next is a news report from Turkey.
Welcome to Holidays Around the World. In this video, you will learn about Epiphany, or Theophany, or Three Kings Day. Let's get started. Why do people celebrate this holiday? Well, it is a religious holiday. It celebrates the day when kings or magi are guided by an angel to visit baby Jesus. Jesus is the Messiah in Christianity. Some Christians also honor the baptism of Jesus. He was dipped in the River Jordan. How do people celebrate Epiphany? Some people have their houses blessed. Some people go to church. In some places, there is chalking on the door to show that Jesus has come to their home. Some cultures have a Three Kings cake. You might also see people jumping into water and diving for a cross. There are also plays of the kings visiting Jesus. And on this day, some people receive Christmas presents instead of Christmas. When do people celebrate Epiphany? Most Christians celebrate on January 6th. Others celebrate on January 19th. But everyone celebrates in January.
Now to Spain's capital, where hundreds have gathered for the Parade of the Three Kings. It marks the eve of Epiphany, which is celebrated mainly by Catholics and Orthodox Christians. And according to tradition, it's the day when the three wise men arrived on Bethlehem and offered gifts to the newborn Jesus. In Mexico, thousands of Catholics and Orthodox Christians have also been celebrating the Three Kings Day by enjoying a mammoth king cake. The pastry measures almost 1.5 kilometers in length. 250,000 slices are handed out. Well, the holiday marks again where the three wise men arrived in Bethlehem and offered gifts to the newborn Jesus. Here in Istanbul, the day is marked by Orthodox priests throwing a wooden cross into the freezing waters of the Golden Horn. Divers compete to retrieve it.
So, three kings, wise men, or magi. We don't know a lot about them. Remember the Bible reading at the beginning? All we know is that they came from the east. But because we want to humanize them, we give them names. Traditionally, they go by the names of Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar. Now, unfortunately, the Bible doesn't actually give us their names, so we don't know what they were really called. We don't even know if there were three of them. We think there were three because there were three gifts. We can't be sure. Some paintings have them riding on a horse and a donkey and an elephant to represent people from Africa and Asia and India. Some paintings have them represented as a young man and a middle-aged man and an old man. But we just don't know anything about these people other than the fact that they came to celebrate the boy Jesus. And that's one of the reasons why we get a bit unstuck sometimes when we celebrate Epiphany. Sometimes we are so caught up in the celebration of the birth and of the iconography of the nativity, you know, little figures, that we forget that they didn't come to visit the baby. The Magi came to visit a boy called Jesus. He's probably 2 years old, maybe a bit older perhaps. All we know is that the Bible tells us that he was living in a house, and they came to present gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And these gifts are a bit strange, and these gifts are a bit weird for a 2-year-old. The gift of gold represents a gift for a king. The gift of frankincense represents the gift of incense for a priest. And the gift of myrrh, that's really weird. That's for funerals. That's for something to come in a couple of months' time. Do you remember at the beginning when I said, have you sung We Three Kings? Where there's a verse in it that helps us link Christmas to Easter.
Is mine, its bitter perfume breathes a life of gathering gloom, sorrowing, sighing, bleeding, dying, feeling the stone cold tomb.
Now, I won't see you again probably until Easter. I hope that I might even see you in person. But between Epiphany and Easter, Christians celebrate the coming of Jesus and his life as we learn about him and pray about him and think about him and think about how much he loves us in the days and months and celebrations that lay ahead. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video.
Bethlehem was part of Judea, an area that was ruled by a king named Herod. King Herod was in Jerusalem when some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking,
"Excuse me,
where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose and we have come to worship him." When Herod heard that there was another king born in Judea, he was very upset, as was everyone else in Jerusalem.
yeah, not you."
So Herod called all the important priests and Jews together and asked them where this king was supposed to be born. The Jews knew that their king would eventually come, and it was always told to them that the king of the Jews, the savior of the world, would be born in Bethlehem. So they told that to King Herod. Then King Herod thought of a way to trick the wise men. So he called a private meeting with them and learned from them when the king of the Jews' star first appeared.
Oh, good.
And then King Herod told the wise men, "Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me, so that I can go and worship him too."
Okay. Hey, on your way.
But secretly, Herod wanted to know where the king of the Jews was so he could get rid of him. So the wise men went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where Jesus was, and the wise men were filled with joy.
Woohoo!
They went into the house and saw Mary and Jesus,
Hello. Oh, look. Wow.
and they bowed down and worshiped Jesus.
Wait.
They gave him special gifts fit for the king that he was: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then God warned them in a dream to not go home through Jerusalem, where King Herod was, but God told them to go home a different way. So they did, and then
For millions of Christians in the world, January 6th commemorates the feast day of Epiphany, an ancient tradition dating back to the 2nd century.
On this day, Western Christians focus their celebrations on the wise men's visit to Jesus, as described in Matthew 2:1 and 2. Magi from the east came to Jerusalem.
We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him.
The celebration of Epiphany in Orthodox traditions, sometimes also called Theophany, center on the baptism of Jesus in Matthew 3, Mark 1, and Luke 3.
Three Kings Day is really special for me. For Puerto Rican kids who grew up in New York, it's like this extra holiday. I don't know how aware you are of this tradition, but this is the way we celebrate it as a family. The day before, on January 5th, I'd go out to the park near my house with my dad, and we would go collect grass and hay for the camels of the Three Kings. You get enough to fill a shoebox, and you put it next to your bed. Just like you would leave milk and cookies for Santa, we're leaving grass and hay for the camels to eat, because they've obviously come a very long way if they're coming to Upper Manhattan to bring you toys. And you go to sleep, and you wake up, and first of all, there's presents at the foot of your bed. Second of all, there's grass and hay all over your house. So your brain is filled with the mental images of, oh my goodness, there were camels in my house, and they traipsed up the stairs, and they ate the hay next to my bed, and it's this incredible Three Kings Day miracle. Now here's the thing, if you're growing up in New York, you gotta go to school that day. But you get to go to school with your new toys. I went to a school with not a lot of other Latino kids. It was me, Jillian Mojica, Jaman Martinez, and Pacho Velez. I still know all their names because there was only the four of us. And we had this like little secret. We had our secret little extra holiday.
On the 12th night in Ireland, people put 3 candles in their windows to represent the coming of the 3 kings. It is part of their blessing of homes, a vigil for the kings to come and to give their blessings. In Scandinavia, on the Vigil of Epiphany, star boys carry stars on tall poles, dress in biblical costumes, and go from house to house singing carols. This has taken place since medieval times. The stars are lighted. During medieval times, they would also put on nativity plays beginning on St. Lucy's feast day until Epiphany. In Germany, the Great Epiphany cake is baked to resemble the king's crown. Baked inside of it is a bean, and the lucky one who gets it in their piece becomes the king of the feast and may issue all sorts of ridiculous orders. Salt and chalk are also blessed on the Epiphany. Salt for the animals to lick, and chalk for the blessings of the homes. They write the names of the 3 kings and the year as a blessing over their doorways. The blessing for them is to ward off fire and floods. In Bavaria, a procession of light winds through the towns with star carriers and singing. In some homes, straw is placed on the table to symbolize the straw in the manger. In Austria, children dress as the 3 kings on Epiphany with faces painted red, white, and black to represent all the races that Jesus came for. They also have a star carrier dressed in a white garment. On Epiphany, or 12th night as they call it, the heads of households or oldest servant goes through the house and farm buildings with a pan of charcoal on which incense is burning to smoke out evil spirits. Then holy water is sprinkled everywhere. In Syria, it is said that the youngest camel of the wise men was so tired when he reached the manger that he fell down. In sympathy, the infant Christ blessed him. Syrian children believe that this animal brings them gifts of Epiphany. They call him the Camel of Jesus.
In England, the 12th night cake is baked with a bean and a pea. The one who gets the bean is the king of the revels, and who gets the pea must proclaim the king a toast with special mugs of apple cider called lamb's wool.
In Italy, on Epiphany is when the children receive their gifts from a good witch called La Befana. Legend has it that 2,000 years ago, when the kings were passing through her village on their way to see the baby king, they invited her to come. She couldn't be bothered, but later changed her mind. So in her search for the kings and the baby king, she flies the world on a broomstick, looking into homes for Jesus. When she finds children, she leaves gifts just in case that child is the Christ child.
In Russia, because the Orthodox Church follows the old Julian calendar for religious celebrations, they celebrate Christmas on January 6th. One of the most famous things about Christmas in Russia is the story of Babushka. Babushka means the grandmother in Russian, and she was an old woman who met the three kings, but at first decided not to join them in their search for the baby Jesus. She later regretted her decision, packed up toys and trinkets for the baby, and left on a journey to find the new king. She could never find him, and it is said that to this day, she still searches with her bag of gifts.
On January 6th, most of the Hispanic world celebrates El Dia de Reyes. In Mexico, for example, in every city and in every little town, bakeries offer the Rosca de Reyes, an oval sweetbread decorated with candied fruit. The rosca is served along with tamales. Hidden inside this delicious rosca, a plastic figurine of baby Jesus. The baby is hidden because it symbolizes the need to find a secure place where Jesus could be born, a place where King Herod would not find him. Each person cuts a slice of the rosca. The knife symbolizes the danger in which the baby Jesus was in. Whoever gets the baby figurine shall be the host, and invite everyone present to a new celebration on February 2nd.